Come on, somebody, is He more than all that you need? Come on, He is there in your times of trouble. He is there in every situation and circumstance. Come on, lift up your hands right now, and let's begin to call on that name that is above every name. In your times of hurt, in your times of pain, in your times of loneliness, in your greatest trial, in your moment of weakness, He continues to demonstrate that He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. That He will never leave you nor forsake you. That in the middle of your greatest trial, He is right there. In the middle of your storm, He is holding you. He is the one that speaks to the storm, rebukes the wind, and says, peace, be still. Come on, somebody, clap your hands to the Lord like you mean it right now. Amen. We're going to just hop right in. I believe that God is doing something good. I believe that God has something for somebody today. So if you have your Bibles, turn with me to Mark chapter 5, beginning verse 2. Mark chapter 5, beginning verse 2. And while you are turning there, again, let me just say that it is so good to see everybody that is here today. I know that many are watching on live right now, and that's great. But those that are here, amen, we're going to dial in, we're going to focus in. There are people that are hurting. There are people that are going through trials and situations and circumstances. And friend, let me tell you, if your life is good right now, then enjoy it. If everything is perfect, then that's great. I'm happy for you. But there are people next to you that are hurting. There are people beside you that are in pain. There are people on the other side of the building that are saying, if God, if only somebody would pray for me. Or if only somebody would get a hold of you for me. Amen. Mark chapter 5, beginning of verse 2. It says this, and when He was come out of the ship, referring to Jesus, immediately there met Him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. Verse 3. It says, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains. Verse 4. Because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. Verse 5, and always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. Anybody ever been there? You feel like you're by yourself, you're surrounded to the dry places, and nothing but appears to be just dead promises and empty promises, and there's nobody that cares about you. You find yourself at times just crying. You're there in the tombs, or what we would call the cemeteries, and God, where are you? I wish I could feel you. I wish I could find you. And here was this man crying. Go ahead and go to the next verse, verse 6. It says this, but when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped Him. Come on. Oh, come on, somebody. Anybody ever been there? You're going through your trial, your situations. But when somebody says that Jesus is here, all of a sudden you throw aside all distractions, all attacks, all doubt, all worries, and you say, I have got to go and meet Jesus. Amen. Jump to verse 9. Verse 9 says this, and he asked him, what is thy name? Jesus talking to this man that had a spirit. And he answered, saying, my name is Legion, for we are many. Jump to verse 12. Verse 12 says, and all the devils besought him, saying, send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. Verse 13, and forthwith Jesus gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000, and were choked in the sea. Verse 14. And they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. Lastly, verse 15, it says, and they came to Jesus. Everybody say Jesus. Jesus. Come on, everybody again. Let's say that name again that is so beautiful and precious. Jesus. Jesus. Amen. And see him that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion sitting and clothed, and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Somebody said amen. 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 Listen, by the help of the Lord, I'm going to be teaching or preaching on this simple title, that help is on the way. Come on. Amen. You guys may be seated in Jesus' name, but help is on the way. August 5th, 2010, there was something that many of you may remember that took place. There was a cave that began to collapse in San Jose, the northern part of the country of Chile. And when that began to happen, there were 33 miners that got trapped inside of the mine. This was a copper and gold mine, and all of a absolutely no hope. They found themselves with no escape. They found themselves with no exit. They found themselves, this was it. It was me and 32 others, and this is all that we got. So immediately, when you're going through something like that, they begin to do what I think any of us would do. They begin to find the most spiritual one of the bunch. And they said, listen, we know that you've talked about Jesus. We know that you've talked about God. So how about you go ahead and become kind of the prayer leader? I mean, when there was no hope and nowhere to turn, they all of a sudden said, listen, I think we need Jesus. There is no speaker. There is no intercom. There's no phone systems. There's no way of reaching out there. I think we need to just begin to call on Jesus. And so they asked Jose Henriquez, who was the Christian man there, and they held services, prayer services, twice a day. They formed a semicircle, and Jose said, as he's testified even years after, that it was a captive audience. Here was this group, they could go nowhere. So they were all right there, and I'll tell you, everybody was listening, everybody was paying attention, and everybody was praying. We didn't have to beg people to pray. We didn't have to say you really should pray, or we recommend that you pray. Everybody knew that they were in a situation, and the only one that they could call on was Jesus. And so there they were, just beginning to pray. They didn't have much food. In fact, they found out that about a third of the milk that they had over there was spoiled. And they had enough to last them about 2 days. 2 days, that was it. Now these men, they realized, listen, it may be longer than 2 days. We're going to have to ration this food. We're going to have to stick together. We just got to do this together. And so they would share a can of tuna a day between the 33 of them. There were some crackers. They would split up. They would give a cracker, sometimes maybe 2 crackers a day, until they realized it's getting longer and longer. So they stretched it out to every 2 days and then every 3 days. And here they were in a very desperate and dark situation. The only lights that they had, their only source of light was the headlamps they had on, and they didn't know how long that was going to last. They had a few vehicles in there, but they knew that the longer they kept the lights on, the more the pollution was taking the air over, the more the air was getting polluted, so they knew they couldn't keep that running. They had to keep that, they just had to kind of forget about it. 17 days in, after about 7 failed attempts, there managed to be a hole that came in to where it was that they were, about 2,300 feet in the cave. This is a very, very deep place. Over 2,300 feet, finally something began to make its way into the hole, and it was a drill that made its way in. All of a sudden, there was a little bit of hope. All of a sudden, there was a little bit of excitement, as you can imagine. Maybe this whole ordeal was about to wrap up. Maybe we're about to get out of here. And all of a sudden, something began to maybe get a little excited in them. And finally, they were able to drop a line of communication down in there. And one of the miners, he was getting ready to be a dad before this happened. And he found out that his wife had a baby while they were down there. He said, I want you to tell her to name her Esperanza, which meant hope. All of a sudden, there was something that all of them had something to look forward to. There was a little girl that had been born whose name was Hope. And we have got to get out of here. Friend, you've got to get out of here because you've got a little girl that is waiting to see you, and she wants to meet her daddy, and she wants to hear about her daddy, and she wants to be held by her daddy. And all of a sudden, there was hope that went into that cave. And finally, they were able to hear that help was on the way. When they were there, in their darkest situation, no doubt, that they probably had ever faced in their lifetime, they all of a sudden were given a glimpse of hope and being told that help was on the way. Somebody said amen. 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 You see, in our passage, we read about a man who lived in the cemetery. He was possessed and he could not be contained. This was a man that lost everything. He lost his job, he lost his family, he lost his friends, he lost maybe any of those that he worked with and those that he loved, and everything. He lost it all, and there he was in this cemetery. Verse 5 tells us that, go ahead and put up verse 5, Chris. He was so messed up that he cried night and day and cutting himself. He was so overwhelmed, he felt as though there was no hope. And maybe there'd be times and periods where he would come to himself. He would just begin to weep bitterly. He would begin to cry. He couldn't control it. He just felt as though there was no way out of this situation. God, I don't see an exit strategy. I don't see an exit plan. I don't see in case of emergency Somebody said amen.
Amen.
Amen. You see, I don't know about you, but I can recall on more than one occasion being so overwhelmed and feeling as though I didn't know the answer. God, you see where I'm at, and I would just stand under the hot water of the shower, just crying, saying, God, I don't know what's going to happen. God, I don't know what is going to take place. God, I don't even know what is going to happen to me or this situation or my family or what it is that I've been praying for or fasting for. Anybody ever find themselves in that situation where, God, I have been praying and I can't hear you. God, I have been talking to you and I feel as though I cannot hear you back. God, I am here with my face to the floor, but where are you? Anybody ever find themselves in that situation? Maybe even today there are somebody that is in that place today, but I'm here to tell you that help is on the way. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus. You can clap your hands and go around. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. You see, I'm talking to somebody today that even this very moment they feel a sense of being overwhelmed and things aren't going great around you. They're not going according to the plan that you had laid out, or maybe even the resolutions that you set up at the beginning of the year. And this isn't how you imagine 2019 beginning to unfold and begin to take place, and your family is falling apart, and the job is giving you drama, and the kids are acting a fool, and your finances ain't that great, and your prayers don't seem to be working, but help is on the way. Yeah. Jesus, Jesus. You see anybody believe that with me right now? Go ahead and clap your hands to the Lord. I can remember being 5 years old, and I was running around kind of playing tag with this guy, this boy, Joshua Williams, and we were running around, and there was this pack of firewood. It was right there on the side of the house, and I was kind of turning around to see how close he was, and I hit this stack of firewood, and I tripped, and I fell on my right arm, and I broke it. I didn't know that at the time, but I was in such severe pain. As a young 5-year-old, I began to scream. I began to cry. I was saying, help, please, help. And he said, I'm going to go get your mom. I'm going to get your dad. Just don't worry, okay? He ran over there to go tell them, and he ran back. He said, they're coming. Help is coming. And I can remember at least knowing that help was on the way. I could remember knowing that at least now my mom and my dad were going to come get me. I just knew then at that moment that everything was going to work out somehow, and they were going to be able to come here. And if it was to kiss my booby, then they'd kiss it and I'd feel better. If it was to take me to the doctor, they'd take me, and I knew that it was all going to work out. Amen. You see, this man had absolutely no idea. But as he was having this battle of his lifetime, as he was there in this cemetery, as he was there in the tombs, he was just crying, and he could see no exit, and he couldn't find a way out there. But I can't help but imagine and think that he must have had a praying grandma kind of in the background. I can't help but to think he must have had a prayer family member that said, listen, he doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all for him. He's gone crazy. He's breaking the chains, the cuffs. Nobody can contain him. He's not even mentally right. But I can't help but imagine that there had to have been somebody in the background that said, I'm not going to stop praying yet. I'm not going to stop giving up hope yet. I know that I've prayed already a day. I know I've prayed a month. I know I've prayed a year. But I'm going to pray just a little bit longer until I can get a hold of Jesus, until I can see that your chains have been broken, until I can see that liberty has stepped into your body. Come on, somebody. You see, while this man was struggling physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, go ahead and put up Mark chapter 4:35, Chris. While he was going through this battle and he had no idea or sense of hope anywhere, there was nobody there to encourage him. There was nobody there to speak life to him. There was nobody there to remind him that things aren't going to be like this forever. Jesus, it says, and the same day when the even was come, he saith unto them, talking about Jesus, let us pass over unto the other side. This man had absolutely no idea, but help was on its way. Jesus wasn't prompted. The disciples didn't come and talk to him. There was no parent to this man that was over there running to him. But no doubt, I just can't help but imagine. God had seen him in his deepest hurt, in his darkest moment. And he said, listen, we're going to go to the other side. Let's get in. We're going to hop in this boat and we're going to begin to make our way to the other side. Somebody said amen. Amen. You see, sometimes there may have been where you have found yourself up against the wall there's nowhere to go, and it just doesn't seem like you're going to be able to get pulled through this because you just don't know how it's going to happen, and yet somewhere, somehow, there's somebody that is praying for you. I know of at least one, which is the pastor, every day, every morning, that is calling out your name, saying, God, you see this circumstance. You see this situation. I'm calling out right now for sister so-and-so or for brother so-and-so. I need you to step in and to touch their body, to step in and to touch this situation. And you couldn't see anything, but help is on the way. Amen. Amen. Look over to your neighbor and tell them, help is on the way. Help is on the way. I heard a story from a preacher a couple of weeks ago. This preacher was there sharing a story about a saint in his church. And this man has been coming. He's been faithful. He was an elderly gentleman. And his daughter as growing up, just kind of left and wasn't even in talking terms with him. She kind of did her own thing and just walked away from God. And she had his grandkids, and he wasn't able to even see his grandkids. And here he was, and service after service, he just continued to pray. And he continued to worship, and he continued to just give it to God. And God, I've tried everything that I can. You've seen I've made every attempt to try to make things right. You've seen I've done everything that I can to reach out or to offer an olive branch or to get a hold of them. And you see I've done everything that I can, but I feel as though I just can't do. There's nothing that I can do. And service after service and prayer after prayer. And this preacher was talking, here it is now, it's been almost 29 years, it's a little over 28 years. And he said, I've got to tell you now, that next to that man is his daughter and his grandkids. After 28 years of praying and holding on, he had no idea, but those prayers were not falling on deaf ears. Help was on the way. Somebody clap your hands to the Lord right now. Jesus, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus. Amen. I was talking to a customer just about a week and a half ago, and she was sharing, I just love talking about God. I love testimonies. I love just hearing about things that God has done, because I know that when I'm facing things, like I want to hear, what did God do for you? You got to tell me, what did God bring you out of? Because this is what I'm facing. And I love testimonies. Testimonies are good, but there are times where it's almost like you hear somebody's testimony, you're like, man, that's great, but God, that's them. And I hear about how you brought them out of the storm, or I heard about how you delivered them from the cemetery, or you healed them from this sickness or this disease. But God, here I am right now in my storm. And God, here I am right now bound up in this addiction. And God, here I am right now going through this situation or circumstance. And there are times that you need to just be reminded that help is on the way. So as we were talking, she began to just share with me something that it is that she went through. She went through a messy divorce, and it was just bad. And she really kind of lost everything. And she was kind of the breadwinner, so she was bringing the money. She was now going to have to make payments and pay all of these debts off. And she just went to God. She said, God, I just don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't see how it's possible, any way for me to make these payments and to even live. And God began to talk to her, and he said, well, I tell you what, why don't you call up so-and-so? And there was a name that he gave, and she said, no, that's crazy. I don't even know if I have her number. I just don't think I can do that. I mean, I haven't even talked to that person in so long. They may not even remember me. And so she just keeps praying like, God, I really need an answer here. I need you to help me. I'm praying. And he says it again. I need you to go ahead and I need you to call her. Go ahead and call her. And there she is again. She finally says, God, and she kind of just does this a couple times. And finally says, okay, but I don't think I even have the number. I'm going to pull out the phone, and sure enough, there was the number. And so she said, well, okay, I guess I'm going to call. She's probably not going to answer. Do I even leave a voicemail? I'm just going to call. Okay, I'll just call. So she presses dial, and she calls, and the person picks up right away and says, you're hired. She said, what are you talking about? She says, listen, the person that I had just completely quit. We had to kind of get rid of them. And there's a position that's open. We need you. It ended up paying twice the amount. She had no idea. But God was already lining things up, getting everything ready, everything prepared. And at times he's saying, I need you to take your step. I need you now to give a little something. You can't expect, a lot of times we say, I'm just waiting on God, as an excuse, as though you don't have to do your part. But friend, you're not just waiting on God, you're waiting for God. God, I'm ready to meet you. If I see those doors, I'm coming to you. In fact, I'm going to hold that door open in case I to you from afar off, I want you to know that you are welcome in this place. At times, God is saying, I want you to step up. I want you to step out. Don't just feel as though everything is going to unfold for you and you do nothing. This is why praise is so important. This is why worship is so important, because it demonstrates to the devil that no matter what it is that you are facing, he cannot control your praise. He cannot rob you of your praise. He cannot take that from you. It is one of the only things that the devil cannot take from you. When there is pain in your body, when there is doubts rising up, when there is fears that you're battling, you can still lift up those hands and say, God, I praise you. In everything that I go through, I still will worship you. Somebody said, Amen. 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 You see, Isaiah wrote these words. He says, those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. I could remember, and I shared this with you guys a couple of months ago, and my wife and I were on our way back from the outlets in Georgia, and as we began to make our way back, we were going 80 miles an hour in the fast lane, and we were kind of just breezing through, just flying, and all of a sudden there was a loud boom, 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 boom. One of the tires had busted. We knew we had to get over as fast as we can, and as safely as we can without slamming the brakes. So it was like, God, I really need your help right now. We got across, boom, we made it safe and sound. And I remember looking around, and I was like, what in the world? There's not even a spare tire on this car. Like, how does this car not even come with a spare tire? And so I called up the insurance, and I told them, I said, listen, this is where I'm at. Really, if you could send somebody out here. They said, sure, we're going to go to do that. We'll have somebody out there. Just know, make sure you're safe, but help is on the way, okay? I cannot tell you how nice that felt as I was there, not knowing what was going to happen. Here I am with my wife, both of our sons, on the side of this highway. What is going to happen? We really kind of need somebody to help us. So then the next question kind of naturally comes up. Okay, that's good. Preacher, you're telling me that help is on the way. But the next question I ask them is, how long? I want to know how long I've got to wait. You're telling me that help is on the way. That's great. But listen, I need to know because I've got a baby that's hungry. I've got a wife that's in the back. I've got my son that's getting kind of nervous because the big old semis are flying by and our little car's shaking. I need to know how long before help arrives. And they said, well, it'll be about 45 minutes to an hour. I said, okay, at least I have somewhat of a timeline. I at least do, okay, I know at some point somebody's going to be arriving. And as I was there, I had no idea, but about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes max, there was a truck that had pulled up and totally looked like roadside assistance. They pulled up, roadside assistance. They came. They said, hey, do you need some help? I said, yes, thank you so much. They helped me with the tire. I said, so does the insurance, are they going to just pay you? Or did you need to give you a card or anything like that? They said, oh, no, I don't work for any insurance. I said, did my insurance company call you? They said, no insurance called us. Actually, I don't even ever take this route, but something told me to just come this way. I had no idea. But before my tire had even popped, God was lining it up, and help was getting ready to arrive. And when I had my moment of weakness and my time of pain and my struggle, I had no idea. But God had it all under control and said, listen, I've got this. It doesn't matter what it is that you are facing. God has got this. Amen. So we continue on with our story, and we read what now begins to unfold. And listen, you've come too far to turn back now. I just feel to tell somebody, you've come too far to turn back now. And going backward is not going to be your way forward. Going back to that messy lifestyle, going back to what may seem comfortable or may be familiar is not where it is at. If you want to go forward, it is not by you turning around saying, God, this is just too hard. I didn't know it was going to be this hard. I didn't know it was going to be this difficult. I'm just going to go back to what it is that I know or what it is that I'm comfortable with. Friend, you have come too far now to turn back. Somebody said amen. Amen. You see, going back, it would kind of be almost a slap to the face, and all those that have already invested in you as well, those that have prayed with you at an altar, those that have been praying for you, and your grandparents and your parents, or maybe your cousins, or your family here just praying for you. I'm turning around and saying, listen, I appreciate it, but I'm out of here. I've got to just go back to what it is that I am used to. You see, I've learned this, not to be fooled by the frailty of bones. I cannot I cannot tell you the amount of times that my grandma has given me a call up and she said, what is it that you're going through? What is it you need me to pray? In fact, just 2 weeks ago, she calls me up and she begins to say, well, listen, what can I pray for you for? I said, well, Grandma, this is what it is that we're going through. This is what it is we're facing. And a lot of times when somebody says, hey, I need you to pray for me, it's like, yeah, that's cool. You really have no idea if they really actually pray for you. It's kind of like, yeah, I'll pray for you. We'll see you later. Take care. We'll pray for you. And did they even really pray for me? I don't even know. But my grandma's not like that. I mean, my grandma said, okay, that's what you need to pray. Okay, boom. She gets right into prayer right there. It's like, whoa, okay, hey, baby, quiet the baby. We're about to go touch heaven right now. And she begins to just reach heaven from right there over the phone. So I've learned it doesn't matter what they look like on the outside, friend. They have already weathered the storm. They've already gone through these battles and they fights. They have come through there, and you look at them and you say, how could this person know what they're talking about? I mean, look at all their scars. The fact that they have scars demonstrates that they are survivors. They have been beat up. They have been kicked. They have been pushed. All of these things that they have faced, they've been abandoned. They have been talked about. They've been gossiped on. They have been made fun of. All of these things, and yet somehow they continue to stand their ground knowing that, listen, it doesn't matter what it is that we're going to face. It doesn't matter what it is that I'm going to go through. What the storm may look like, how hot that fire may be raging. I have learned that God is going to step in. And I've learned, do not be fooled by what they look like on the outside. Somebody said amen. Amen. Yes, I find it interesting that after Jesus in Mark 4:35 says, let's go, that they find themselves in the middle of a storm. Here is Jesus in the storm. You see, when the devil knows that you are getting ready to get a blessing, he'll begin to send them waves. He'll begin to stir the storm. He'll begin to blow the wind, and that wind will begin to howl, and that lightning will begin to crackle. And you've been there praying, God, where is my miracle? Where is my blessing? Where is my answer? And all of these things you're facing, and now it appears by all measures, by all sides, by all senses, that it is getting worse. But it is not because God is trying to trip you up or trap you or get you to turn around, but it is because the devil says, oh my goodness, look how close they are. I've got to do everything that I can to stop them. I've got to do everything that I can to discourage them. When Jesus said we're going to the other side, the devil knew, great, they're getting ready to come over here. Jesus is going to get rid of us. This is about to happen. We need to try to see if we can stop them. Somebody said amen. Amen. You see, you may be in the middle of that storm right now, getting ready. You're at the precipice. You're right at the edge, getting ready to jump into your blessing, a life of plenty, an answered prayer. And that's all that you want. You're not asking God, make me rich or give me the newest car. You're saying, God, I need you to provide at least until next payday. God, I need you to step in just another day. God, I need you to step in and get me through this week. God, I'm not asking for all of these great things, but if I can just get by to see, to praise, to worship, to see you answer one more time. And there you are in the face of a storm. And Jesus is right there with you. And you have no need to worry because he said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Amen. Somebody said amen. 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 You see, David wrote in the 23rd Psalm, the 4th verse, you can call it that. He says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. It wasn't a God, if I ever go through a valley. It says, yea, though I walk. In other words, it's going to happen. You're going to find yourself in a pit. You're going to find yourself in a valley. The devil doesn't come after you when you're on your mountaintop. The devil doesn't come after you right after you've just defeated your giant. But he is right there when you've been praying, when you've been fasting, when you've been asking God, when you've been wondering, when you've been questioning, when you're just, God, I don't know what's going to happen. And there he is. Now all of a sudden he begins to step in. And now you find yourself in the middle of another battle, in the middle of another fight. And yet even though you walk through that valley, I want to remind you that help is on the way. Yes. Amen. So Jesus gets over to the other side and he asks the Spirit for its name. And it says our name is Legion. I find it interesting that this demon or demons, you've got to understand that a legion back then, a Roman legion typically consisted of about 5,000 to 6,000 soldiers. So here were these demons that were actually using military terms. You see, a lot of times we kind of approach this life and oh, well, God, if I get time, I'll pray. Or, God, if I get time or feel like fasting, I'll fast. I don't know who feels like fasting ever. God, if I feel like like going to service, then I'll go. And we kind of approach this lifestyle, this walk with God, lackadaisical, just kind of flip-flop if I get around to it. But yet these demons are using these military terms because they know, listen, we're going to get together, we're going to take them down. So you've got to begin to change your mindset to know that you are in a battle, that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers of this world and darkness and these spirits that are desiring to take your soul, to take your blessing, to take your hope, and to take your children. And so Jesus is there talking to this demon, or demons plural, as we see that there had to have been at least thousands of them. Jesus begins to rebuke them into the swine. And we see that the swine, there was about 2,000, that it tells us they began to just jump over the cliff. And that was it. They drowned the pigs. If you could put up verse 18. It says, and when he was coming to the ship, Jesus getting back to the ship, delivers this man. You see, Jesus was working on restoration, on bringing this man back to everything that it is that he lost. The devil will try to take things from you. He will give you sleepless nights. He will give you restlessness, and you won't be able to even get rest, and you got pain in your body, and all of these things. And Jesus came in and he said, I'm going to restore you. I'm going to give things back to you. And so here's Jesus, and it says as he was getting ready to get into the ship, he that had been possessed, referring to this man, with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. He was there saying, my God, Jesus, I can't tell you the last time that I felt this peace. I can't tell you the last time that I felt this joy. I can't tell you what it's like to be like this again. You see, it says in verse 15 that when they came, they seen him. Here was this man back in his right mind, and he was now clothed, and it was as if everything was normal. Well, everybody had knew this person to be, with no hope, no sense of direction, everything. Here he was now in his right mind. Jesus began to bring it back. And he goes to Jesus. Jesus, let me come with you. I want to go with you. I want to stay where I feel this comfort and this peace. I want to feel like it's a Sunday every single day. I want to just be right there and just bask in your presence. And yet I find it interesting that Jesus gave him a different response. Go to verse 19. You see right here. It says, howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but saith unto him, go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord hath done for thee, and hath had compassion on thee. You see, he wasn't done restoring it. He gave him back a sound mind, and gave him the ability to think again, and peace, and joy, and all these things, but there was still something. You see, the people back there, they knew that he was crazy. They knew that he had lost all this family and friends and finances and everything that he had lined up. But he says, listen, I want you to go back. I'm restoring everything. That family that you thought was gone or had forsaken you, or that praying relative, that grandma, that parent that prayed for you, you've got to go and talk to them. You've got to share with them the testimony. You need to go back to your employer and let them know that, nope, it's not happening like this anymore. I am a changed person. You need to go back to those friends that said he is crazy, nobody can help him, and you need to just go back to them and let them see what it is that God is able to do.
Yes.
See, after this, Jesus makes his way back to the other side. He gets in the ship, as we see here. And there's this large crowd that is gathered, and there's one particular individual whose name was Jairus. And as he was there, this man Jairus comes, and he's begging, I've got a 12-year-old daughter that is sick, and she's on her deathbed, and Jesus, I just need you to step in. And Jesus says, let's go. Let's go. So he begins to make his way, and all of a sudden, you guys know the story, something interrupts him moving. Somebody kind of interrupts and stops and pauses the whole story, because it shifts from Jairus to now this woman who had this issue of blood. Also, 12 years. This man had a daughter of 12 years, and here was this lady that had been dealing with this for 12 years, this issue of blood. It says when she heard of Jesus, I can't help but begin to think, you see, she had never touched Jesus or had ever even seen of Jesus, but she had heard about Jesus. It may have been from one of the possessed men, it may have been from one of the blind men, it may have been from one of the dumb men, one of those that couldn't see or hear or talk, the mute. I mean, it could have been from any one of them. But it says when she heard of Jesus, that she began to press through the crowd. You see, she began to understand that help was on the way. If I can just get to him, I know that help passing by, that help is on the way. Amen. You see, Jesus was in the middle of talking one time, as he was there talking, there was these scribes and the Pharisees, and they go and they grab this woman that had been caught in the very act of adultery, and they threw her at Jesus' feet. They said, we got him. We're about to interrupt his message. His sermon is about to be tore up. How is he going to deal now with his sermon? And you see, Jesus had looked at her, and here she was caught in the very act. And listen, it is just like God, but God will take your mess that it is that you have created, and he will turn it into the message. He said, listen, you thought that you could stop this sermon, but I'm actually making this the sermon. You thought that this person was going to be done, and you thought she was about to be killed and stoned and all of these, but let me tell you something, that help is on the way. Whatever it is that you are facing, somebody clap your hands if you believe that God is in control, that he has not left you, that he has not abandoned you, that you are still being held in the very palm of his hand. Yes. And man, as the musicians begin to make their way up here, and as we all begin to stand to our feet, I just wonder right now if there was someone today that was like this man, that going through this time of loneliness, going through this time of pain, that when he saw Jesus, he said, I've got to get to his feet. I've got to get to Jesus. This altar is open. A lot of times when we're going through things and we sing songs, miracle worker and way maker and deliverer and healer, and he is all of these things. It's true. But there is one thing about being able to sing it and to say that he is a miracle worker, and it is something different to say when you have been facing a situation and he performed a miracle, then all of a sudden he is my miracle worker. When you have been down or beat up with a disease or sickness, and yes, you can sing songs about him being a healer, but then when he heals your body, all of a sudden you personalize it. He is my healer. You're facing a trial in a situation, and yes, God, you are a deliverer, but then all of a sudden he delivers you, and now he becomes my deliverer. Right now you are in a situation, and it isn't that God has abandoned you, but he is personalizing the relationship with you. Now you'll be able to leave this storm calling him my healer, my deliverer, my way maker, my, come on, peace in the middle of the storm, my rock, my healer and hope and deliverer, and all of these things that you can call on him depending on what it is that you are facing. Somebody said amen to that. Amen. Amen. You see, the devil will try absolutely everything within his power to trip you up. He will try to push you and pull you and wear you slap out, and he'll attack your kids and your body and your mind and your peace and all of these things, and yet somehow you are still here today being reminded that help is on the way. You're not facing this by yourself. You're not walking this storm alone. But God is right here, and he has sent me today to remind you that he has never left you. He has never forsaken you. That yes, weeping may endure for the night, as you're struggling there and as you're crying and you're weeping and you're hurting. But friend, joy is coming. Joy is on its way. Joy cometh in the morning. My God, these altars are open. Sister Peggy, if you could begin